Hi everyone. Oh my gosh. Welcome back to my podcast, The Wandering Head Witch, with me, The Wandering Head Witch. Wow, just noticed that the last episode that I recorded was in July and it was all about like surviving retro. Well, I survived maybe like 2 weeks of it, and then the last 2 weeks with the post shadow phase, it was not gonna happen, y'all. Not gonna happen. And I was like, I need to step away. I need to take a break. I need to do what I literally tell everybody to do is, reassess, relax, and like reevaluate everything since there was a lot of focus on relationships and like home life as well as like the normal like career and like where am I going in life and what am I doing with myself. We literally, it felt like we revamped everything in our lives and homes. It was wild. Things came up to the surface that we needed to communicate or to heal, and we did that and had some few explosions, but hopefully everybody else's retrograde went as smoothly as it possibly can. I understand that like these cycles come throughout the year for us to really take a look at what we need to get done. I call these processes as an homage to a friend of mine. She used to call things like this a period of time to get your life and get your life together. And that's pretty much what it uh was. But that's a little catch up. We're still manifesting our move to Oregon and still trying to sell our houses and get this process rolling. Did a lot of like reassessing my packages and what I offer and my coaching and reintroducing that. I kind of put my life coaching skills and services to the side for a long time. I'm not gonna lie. I was very bitter. I had a lot of blockages around helping people because the people that I was attracting to help only wanted free services, or they would get to like a certain part and then be like, ugh, this doesn't work. I don't want to do the work. What do you mean? I actually have. So I was like, I'm gonna put this aside. So I brought that back. I brought my card readings back, and I really like took the time to assess what I really wanted from offering my services. I also wanted to talk about my story with like confidence and starting a business and my purpose and how I like came to it all, like how I got into coaching and how I got into all this like divinational and metaphysical witchcraft and practices and modalities. And I wrote a blog about it, which I will attach this podcast video to the blog post. But I grew up in what a lot of people call a very charmed life. Was born with a silver spoon, literally. Like, I cannot make this up. I had a Tiffany silver baby spoon. How bougie is that? Okay. But with that, there's pros and cons. I also had a family that, had a variety of mental health issues, just like every one of us do. My brothers had Asperger's, as well as some other like personality disorders caused by pharmaceuticals, which that's a whole other podcast. My mother suffered from narcissism and borderline issues. My dad was a very overly confident person, very traditionally, like culturally traditional as far as like the Jewish culture went. So I pretty much was bred and raised and taught to be the perfect Jewish daughter. And along with that came, I consistently second guess myself. I'm a people pleaser with like spouts of selfish and bratty behavior when I'm triggered. I tend to bottle a lot of stuff, and it was way worse when I was younger. Like as soon as I turned like I 17, I knew high school was not for me. I took my GED and I was like, I'm out. I'm gonna work until I'm 18. And then my father and I talked about it, and I ended up moving to South Florida, which at the time, being 18, I was like, screw it. It's the farthest away that I can move without being too far from what I know. And that was like the start of everything. When I moved down to South Florida at 18, I was uncontrollable, y'all. I was unbloody controllable. It was the first time that I actually had what like freedom, so to speak. Could do what I wanted, I could say what I wanted, and I could be who I wanted to a certain extent. Again, whole nother podcast without getting too much into it. My parents know a lot of people on the East Coast, and it was very hard for me to separate myself from the lifestyle and the life that, I was born into. It was all hell broke loose, and it was a mess. I was a mess. When I in my young 20s, I was in college and then, moving back to Atlanta to be in an up and coming city and, finishing out my degree there. Want to say it was like up until my like 25th birthday. And in my 25th year, I started dating somebody that was about 10 years older than me. And they, at the beginning, were exactly what my parents wanted. He was Jewish, he was a doctor, he had money, he knew how to control me. And while it was picture perfect, it was probably about a year into the relationship I realized a lot of the things that were said weren't truth. And I'm sure everyone has this story of like you always have you love people so much that you're blinded to a lot of the red flags, or you're blinded to a lot of the things that you don't want to see. And that's what it was. And about a year into the relationship, I realized that he was a con artist, and him and his mother had this thing going on where they met. Like, she would research daughters of like business people and whatnot in different states, and then he would like go and do the whole shebang. And that's how they made their money, was off of like these women. He had like six other fiancées, y'all. So, anywho, when we broke up, and through that whole dramatic drama experience, that was when I first found the self-improvement section at Barnes& and Noble. I went to visit my parents in Fort Lauderdale, and my mom and I went to Barnes& and Noble down the street. I just happened to pass the self-help section, and I saw Gabby Bernstein's first book. And it was like this big. I mean, y'all, this book, I still have this book. It is so tattered, but it was so special to me because of what it did for my life. And this podcast isn't about like the shrine to self-improvement authors, but that was really the start of it. That, that book changed my whole experience. And I was like, if this person could do it, and this person's going to help me do it, I'm really interested in doing much more. And literally, I I still love the self-help section. There is nothing wrong with improving yourself every year, every couple of years, every few months, like every few weeks, every other day. She really like was that catalyst for me. And then when I was in my late 20s, I started to realize how much I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to help people going through the same thing as I went through. So I took my life coach certification. I took my health coach certification. I took psychic development and Reiki. And it was all about like not only improving my life, but also improving others' lives and helping them to realize that they could do it on their own. Then I came out the broom closet and I was like, you know what? I have been practicing witchcraft since I was about 16, 17 years old. Crossed over and became a devout pagan when I was about 22 years old. But I was, in the broom closet. I didn't tell anybody. I was one in Georgia, which is like part of the main part of the Bible Belt. And two, a lot of the people I dated, men and women in my young 20s, it made them uncomfortable. So I hid it. So in my late 20s, I was working at a spiritual healing center, and I started to dive into divination and cards, tarot cards, oracle cards, energy healing cards. I got my Reiki certification because I was like, wow, I totally feel this vibe, and I totally know energy can heal us, this, that, and the other. So it was really like all of it came from experiences that I was experiencing and wanted to help others experience that same feeling. Confidence is still something that I have issues with. I don't know why. I've always had confidence issues, insecurities. And while I would love to pass the blame and say it was completely because of my parental upbringing, but it was also because of the people that I surrounded myself with. growing up and the people I surrounded myself with up until the part I was like, these are not kosher people. Um, Confidence, physically confident. I have always, like, looking back on it, I was even thinking about this the other day. I have always focused on dieting or losing weight or having the perfect, like, physical appearance. And again, a lot from my family, but also it stemmed from being an emotional eater. Also was in an area of Atlanta that was very pretentious. I mean, I was like a size 6 to an 8 when I was in my 20s. And when I say I actually had a boss tell me, if you, not a boss, but somebody I was like in an interview with, and they were like, you're actually a perfect candidate, but if you lose a little weight, we would hire you. And everyone's like, oh, they can't say that. That's illegal. Yeah, people say that all the time because who's going to believe, who's going to believe the person that's like, oh, they said that? I didn't record that. Who's going to fucking believe that? So it was like society. It was people that I surrounded myself with. It was the area that I was living in. It was family. It was, all sorts of things. And it was also, like, when I say society, like, y'all, Bridget Jones, one of my favorite, like, chick flick series, she was 136 pounds. And the whole first movie is about her feeling fat and wanting to lose weight at 136 pounds. I think I was like that in my young 20s, y'all. But so, like, physical confidence took time, it took practice, it took to like hone in on what the actual issue was. And one of the things is I have found that if I am stagnant, if I am not active, if I am not taking my care of myself physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, whatever, I don't feel good and I don't feel good about myself. I had a lot of body issues after I had my baby. It, didn't come off as easy as it did when I younger. But then I also took a look at, but you know what? Instead of eating fruit in those 2 seconds you get to eat, I was eating like s'mores. So it was my own doing at that point. So physical confidence has taken a long time for me to come to terms with and to learn my triggers uh as like life and just things in general. It was really about me finding my own voice to validate myself, not look for external reassurance. Still working on it, aren't we all? And then career wise, because this is a big one for a lot of people, especially a lot of women that are, people pleasers, and even guys too, I should say, just anybody. Where you have a lot of insecurities about not being enough leads into our jobs and our career. And it was really when I started working at this dispensary in the Springs, and they complimented me on my ability to be a good manager and what I could do. I was great at organizing and financing and sales and, customer service and just team building, like the whole shebang. And they were like, has anybody ever told you this? And no, no, why would they tell me this? And the general manager, and I were talking about it, and she was like, write down like the things that you do that you've been put down for, and write down the things that you get complimented on or that you have a skill set in. And I did, and not just a resume. I'm telling you, you can do the bullet points, you can do the post-its, but like write down what you're good at. If you are bomb.com on a keyboard and can type like a boss, put that down. If you are really good at mediating and negotiating, disgruntled customers and clients, put that down. Your strengths are way bigger than people have led you to believe. And when you see this like in a physical setting, you really realize like I am a talented mother, father, fudge brownie whipped cream ice cream sundae. I'm really trying to practice not cussing. Our toddler is toddlering, and while she is taking a nap, I have a sailor's mouth. I am totally a pirate. I have a sailor's mouth, y'all, and I am trying not to cuss as much. So if you see me or hear me say really weird words like father, father, and sweet iced tea, and son of a biscuit eater, please understand that it's because of my child. And also, I don't want to taint your ears more than I already do. So that is pretty much the gist of it. I didn't want to make this too terribly long. I also, because I keep forgetting to do this, I want to start reading cards for y'all again. I want to do it on YouTube more. I want to get back into sharing my gifts. I did say that I had an issue with giving stuff away for free, but it's not necessarily things that I think this is something that I don't think is only just a service. I feel like reading cards is really fun. I enjoy divination. I am literally the Hufflepuff version of Professional Trelawney. For those Harry Potter fans, I totally see myself as that character in the future, now and forever. So I do want to share my divinational experiences and give y'all a little guide for the day or for the week. Now, that goes without saying, I do still want to charge my services, and if, you've gotten my services or you plan on getting my services in the future, you will understand my services go way more in depth than just a quick little reading for the podcast or the video. So if you're not driving, I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, focus on the intention and what you want to, hear. I'm only going to pull one card. It is from a mermaid message deck. Absolutely love it. It's Hidden Tears. What you see, she's under the surface, right? She has darkness behind her. She looks very sad. She's in murky water, but above her is the lotus flower and a sunny day. So your sadness needs to be released. Don't stay in the muck. Don't stay in the darkness. You have these hidden things under the surface that need to come forward, cry them out, have a good shower cry, release them. But they don't have to be your story. And with the lotus flower into the sunny day, as you know, lotus flowers have to go through the muck. They have to go through those layers of dirt and mud and grime and yuckiness in murky water. That is pretty much what you guys are doing right now. Coming to the surface, we are about to bloom into the most sunniest day. You know, it doesn't mean our past never happened. It doesn't mean these pains don't hurt. But what it means is it's making us stronger and it's blooming to one of the most beautiful flowers. That is all I have for today. Thank you, everyone who joined again. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I know it's a holiday weekend. Hello to all of my friends at DragonCon. I miss it so much. Have a blast this weekend for me. And yeah, I will see you in official Virgo season, September. Woo! Last month of summer, and then we are in spooky season. Okay, that was my exciting dance. Anyway, have a great rest of your weekend. Love y'all. I'll talk to you soon.